We'll start it in another 2-3 minutes.
Okay, sure.
Good morning, Vishwesh.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, you started the recording. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Rajkumar sir, the topic for today's sessions, Introduction to Embedded Platform, RIO.
Yeah,
Yes, and connecting and configuring reconfigurable input and output,
exactly.
interfacing sensors with embedded devices,
Exactly.
data transfer and visualization between real-time system and mobile applications. Sir,
Cool.
these sessions schedules are the first session in the morning, 10 to 11:30. Now we are 15 minutes late, so we
Okay.
can continue up to 11:45.
Fine.
Then we give a break of 15-20 minutes,
Sure.
and at 12:10 we can start. And then lunch break is at 1:30.
Okay.
Lunch break is for 1 hour. So at 2:30 we start the next session, and we conclude by 4 p.m.
Sure, sir, that's possible.
Yes, sir.
So shall we start now, sir?
Vishwesh sir,
Yes, sir.
can we start, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay. So good morning, all the participants. It's my privilege to introduce today's speaker for all three sessions today, Mr. Rajkumar R. He's Senior Application Engineer in VI Solutions, Bangalore. Rajkumar R graduated as Electrical and Electronics Engineer from Anna University, Chennai. Currently, he is designated as Senior Application Engineer at VI Solutions, Bangalore, and handling the major responsibility of supporting various industry in implementing several turnkey systems and system integration projects using NI products. He is also handling the major responsibility of improving the quality of engineering and science education by eradicating the traditional methods of education and inculcating the interest for LabVIEW. Rajkumar, as a CLD certified, has traveled far and wide throughout India and has delivered throughout thought-provoking lectures which inspire the students and improve their interests towards LabVIEW, and also visited 75 plus engineering institutes. He had conducted more number of hands-on sessions for engineering students as well as faculty members on LabVIEW basics and data acquisition. He also had conducted many faculty development workshops on various trending technologies, including embedded and control design, image processing. He has delivered 100 plus lectures on experiential engineering education on varied technological topics. His key interest areas are measurement and automation, sensors, data acquisition and signal conditioning, FPGA-based embedded system design, and power electronics. With this, I present Mr. Rajkumar R. He is the most suitable person for all of us when we are heading towards project-based learning, experiential learning. So he'll give us more insight on the LabVIEW, which is a licensed version available in our institute. So I welcome you, sir. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome. So it's a privilege to be a part of this FTP program. I hope this helps, the academic world to get an insight of how NI LabVIEW is used not only in industry as well as in several of the academic institutions all around the world to develop their projects and develop their applications to which is suited to their own needs. Not only with LabVIEW software, along with LabVIEW, NI based data acquisition as well as embedded products available. So with that being said, let us not spend time in introductions. I think a fair job has been done. So I'll just share my screen and we'll get to today's session without further ado. So I'll just put this entire screen. So I hope my screen is visible. Everyone can see my screen. Yes. So before I continue to today's scheduled session, okay, my colleague has yesterday said that he has been, explaining about a key topic, which is very important in learning NI Lab software. So in that instance, he told that he has explained about how we can, implement a tank rising and falling system. Okay, and he through that he said he has demonstrated the use of the for loop in LabVIEW. Okay, everyone is sure that for loop is available in every software tool, but we can all agree that LabVIEW is a little bit different from how other programming languages work in the way that it's graphical in nature, and the development environment is going to be a little bit different, and it's more suited towards people who are not very comfortable with text-based programming languages. Okay, so people who already know text-based programming languages, yes, it's a little bit tricky, or you can say it's a little bit challenging to transit from um, the other programming language what they have been working to NI Lab software. Okay, but here through this examples, I believe my colleague has already explained how this for loop is supposed to work. That is, he wanted to emulate a working where this tank level rises and falls. Okay, in order to do that, he basically made use of for loop, which can do this by making use of its key potential use, that is doing something for n number of times. Okay, so we don't have any complex syntaxes in order to initiate a for loop. Okay, what you need to do is you need to just give how much number of times that for loop should run, and it's going to make sure that it's going to run that much number of time. And as a byproduct, we also get a iteration terminal. Okay, so that is, for other programming tools, we explicitly tell that I is equal to 0, I less than equal to whatever it is. Okay, but we don't have that much, that level of complexity in terms of for programming in lab. You just give how much number of times you have to run, and you're going to get what iteration currently your loop is working. And this number starts from 0, right? So basically what we need to do is we need to go from 0 to 100 and again come back to 100 to 0. Okay, during that period, okay, it's going to take 201 steps. Okay, because from 0 to 200 is going to be 101 steps, and again back is going to take 100 steps. Okay, and it is not going to happen automatically. Basically what happened here is some sort of mathematics need to be done. Okay, that is when the data is less than 100. Okay, so which means you're just going to pass the iteration terminal value, and that's going to display in the tank that in such a way that it's going to just rise from 0 to 100. Okay, so iteration terminal will generate 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that. If you keep a normal indicator, okay, it's just going to appear as though a number is increasing. But the idea of LabVIEW, behind the LabVIEW, is everything is going to be made graphical. Okay, you're going to make use of this rich graphical user interface in order to develop your application. And it's not like you're going to use the same available tank or thermometer. You can always customize this against your own needs. Okay, you might have hundreds of needs. Okay, you might need to display the application in a completely entirely different way. Okay, so that customization is also possible using LabVIEW. But right now, we are just simulating how we can just make it look like this tank level is rising and falling. And here, basically, you're just going to use this advantage of this iteration terminal, which makes it as though the number is rising. And when this condition is not satisfied, only this is going to be working, because first you're checking whether the iteration value is greater than or equal to 100. So until then, if it is not true, okay, this is going to be false, meaning you're just going to increase the, you're going to just pass it iteration value directly. It's going to appear as though this value is increasing. And pretty much next is you're going to check, right? You're going to check how you're going to make it look as though it's going to decrease. So for that, some mathematics is done. Okay, here So once that mathematics is done, you're going to make it as though it's going to decrease. So after 100, it's going to appear as though this value is going to decrease. So mathematics is done, and once that mathematics is done, it's going to look as though the value is decreasing, right? So and after that, it's going to be like 100 minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. They are clear. So when you run this program, yesterday my colleague said he hasn't run this code. Okay, but when you run this code, it's going to appear like this. Let me run it again. So initially the value is going to increase. Then we are including a case structure here, which makes a decision based on whether it's true or false. Okay, and I'm pretty sure that you can do the same exact thing using any programming tool. Programming language doesn't matter here, but the visualization is what really matters. And in LabVIEW, both your code as well as your GUI is fully visualized. So it's our objective to make use of both this technology. Okay, so as you develop your code, you're developing the GUI itself. So if you ask me whether 10 years ago, if anyone would have done this, no. Normally people would first design the logic, then they'll focus at last on how to create a rich graphical user interface. But the advantage in LabVIEW is you do both of them at the same time. Okay, so this is what my colleague told me to explain. And that's it for this. Next is we are going to see, I'm pretty sure that LabVIEW, you might have already seen, what are the features inside LabVIEW apart from this numeric Boolean string, the ability to make decisions. And right now, if we have seen that for loop is one such, way to do something multiple times. Okay, and we don't need to do the same thing multiple times. There is a way where we can, do some condition making, decision making, where depending on the condition during this multiple execution, you may change what is going to execute. Okay, so everything looks like a good advantage for me at least. Okay, but this is not really a good, this is not really an advantage of LabVIEW per se. The first advantage, of course, is rich graphical user interface. But the foremost important reason why LabVIEW is preferred in any industry is its ability to install, program not only cross-platform, cross-target as well, inter-target communication. Okay, what I mean to say is, it's necessarily not desktop application what makes a difference in LabVIEW. LabVIEW has a very good ability to program embedded applications as well. Of course, terms and conditions apply. It cannot program every, embedded system out there. Okay, like 8085, 8051, those kind of things. Of course, it cannot program. Okay, but there are some range of hardware components which are easily programmable by using LabVIEW. And there are specialized components available by NI, specifically available by NI, which is easy to program using NI software. Fine. So today, our objective is to understand how this LabVIEW is used to program a an embedded system device, and of course, how easy is it to program for, especially engineers and scientists, whose domain expertise is far more valuable than them learning a specific programming language. Okay, because domain expertise goes far more deeper nowadays. Okay, and these domain experts, it is not really good idea for them to learn another programming language under the belt. Okay, because it will impair their researching efficiency to implement their application systems. So with that being said, let's see what kind of hardware does LabVIEW help in implementing and installing. So there are several NI-based products, okay, which are classified as embedded systems, okay, and which can be programmable by using LabVIEW. But right now, we have just started on the journey of using LabVIEW to program embedded system. So it's not a really good idea to directly pitch into programming most complex of these devices and their application needs. So in order to start with embedded system programming, number one need is we already need to know about a fair bit of software. And I'm sure everyone knows about it right now. Okay, day one was totally focused on software systems. Okay, but we are here to see how easy it is to interface an embedded system and how easy is it to program an embedded system using that. Okay, so in order to learn or in order to get a grasp of how this can be done, we have an easy to use device, okay, which easily seamlessly connects with your computer, easy to configure and easy to program it kind of hardware. Okay, so we have with us a hardware called as NI right now. Right. So NI is essentially you cannot say it's a student embedded device because not only students use this. Okay, when people from academics not only constitutes a student, okay, but also researchers, faculties as well. So it's essentially a academic embedded device, okay, which helps in understanding how NI-based hardwares can be easily used to program using LabVIEW and its associated components. So, but what exactly is this Myrio? So this Myrio is essentially a portable reconfigurable I/O device. So when I say reconfigurable I/O, okay, reconfigurable I/O means it's going to be able to change its functionality. Okay, so it can easily change its functionality, okay, in hardware level, not only in software level. Okay, that academicians can use to design, control systems, robotics, mechatronic systems, okay, without reinventing the wheel, essentially. And everything is done here using the graphical programming, that is LabVIEW software. Of course, we do have other options, but those are not as nearly as supported as how you can use LabVIEW to program this. So essentially, different types of domains can be used here because LabVIEW does not only have basic LabVIEW installation. Okay, you can potentially use this for signal processing, image processing, because this has for other connectivity tools, okay, which can enable it to be used for other purposes like signal processing, image processing, control design, and robotics, mechatronics. You can keep on naming it. So what does Myrio essentially provide us? So in order to explain it, Myrio is essentially an embedded system which has uh, sensor connectivity ability. Okay, so one very good comparison people would like to give is people would say, okay, this is another Arduino. Okay, but I beg to differ. It's definitely not only an Arduino. Okay, because Arduino has very small number of very small number of inputs and outputs. Number one. Number two, you cannot vary its ability to acquire multiple samples. Waveform acquisitions cannot be really easily done using um, Arduino. And number three is, even if you can do it, okay, sampling period and sampling acquisition. Okay, sampling rate is not really quite high. Okay, in some cases, in some applications, we may need to acquire very high, sampling rates. So it's not worth the hassle to implement it using Arduino, if you ask. Okay, but Myrio, since NI is specifically used for instrumentation purpose, it really very efficiently supports how you can acquire and generate waveform acquisition and generation. So it provides you a high speed analog input, analog output to generate and measure analog information. Okay, it also has ability to generate and measure digital signals. Okay, and it has audio, power input output. Okay, all in a very board-like form factor. Okay, it's very small. And also, in order to efficiently use this in the IoT device, Myrio also supports both USB and wireless connectivity, Wi-Fi option. Okay, you can just connect your Myrio to Wi-Fi and it's just good to go. Okay, apart from that, you have user programmable LEDs. Because this is an embedded system, it won't have a display. So in order to display its values, okay, what status is happening inside your Rio. Okay, we need to know what status the LED is and what status the application inside which is running is inside. Okay, so you have an option to use this LEDs to do that. And also, interestingly, this has a Xilinx, Zinc co-processor. Okay, so what I mean by this is, okay, I mean everyone knows what Xilinx is. It's a FPGA developer. So essentially, this Zinc is a combination of both FPGA and an ARM processor inside. Okay, which means you can program both embedded system in the form of real-time processing. Okay, with an operating system. On if you want to go for more high-speed interfaces, okay, you can make use of FPGA-based development. And most of the people, what they would think when I speak FPGA is, okay, we need to learn VHDL for it or Verilog for it. But with the use of NI LabVIEW, okay, we don't need to learn both embedded C or C++ for programming an embedded system, because that's the most used tool for embedded C programming. Okay, nowadays embedded Python is also coming up, but these are typically text-based programming language, and it is very hard for engineers and scientists to convert their flow, the program for the application flow, into a text-based programming language. But in LabVIEW, the program is the flow. Okay, it's a flowchart-based programming. So if you want to program an embedded system, okay, essentially you can use LabVIEW-based, system, which is going to be used to access this embedded system IOs and its features. Okay, and FPGA also, we have this LabVIEW FPGA, which essentially does the job of converting your LabVIEW code into FPGA bit file. Okay, so which means you don't need to spend hours and hours of time to understand and write a VHDL code. But of course, there's going to be one drawback, that is, this takes a lot of time for compilation. But the amount of time in this, the planning you do to write a VHDL, okay, is going to be far longer. And whatever you want to write for, IO interface using FPGA, it's going to take long time, as well as the amount of code it's required. Okay, it's going to be very high. So these things can be saved by using your LabVIEW-based FPGA-based system. Okay, because your graphical code is going to be inherently converted into an FPGA code, which means you don't have to spend time in writing the code in the first place. And apart from that, you had much more important goods like power LED to indicate whether the power is on, status LEDs, okay, whether to know the system has switched on or off, or if there is any error in the system, Wi-Fi, 4 user LEDs. And let's say if you want a push button, normally push buttons need to be included in the PCB. Okay, and if you want an external push button, okay, we may need to use one of the digital input and output, okay, digital input to be exact. Okay, so to that you need to connect the switch and make it possible. Okay, but in this case, they have already given you an extra switch, okay, which means you can make use of that safely. And if you don't want a Wi-Fi mode, you can switch off the Wi-Fi and switch on the Wi-Fi by using this Wi-Fi button. You don't need to connect it to a computer to switch off and switch on. And more importantly, since this Myrio has a use case of being used to control a motor, or a robot, or unmanned vehicle. Okay, both a ground vehicle, and also some people have developed their own quadcopter using this. There is a need for implementing an accelerometer. Okay, so that accelerometer can actually be used, in the MIRI itself. MIRI has an inbuilt accelerometer which people can make use of, right? So this has most of the requirements of what a typical embedded system needs to be. If you want anything more than that, you need to implement it. You can make use of this IOs to make connection to appropriate sensors which you desire. And more importantly, you can use a USB port to either connect it to this. Maybe you might need a camera. Okay, USB camera. Okay, with which you need to implement a robot. Okay, for that you can use it. Or maybe you are trying to do a data logger. Okay, you are trying to acquire data from several sensors. Okay, and from that you need to log the data to some, maybe a USB port. Okay, every 1 second or so. So your MIRI has very limited memory. So maybe you need to use a USB stick to store the data inside. So this could be used, right? And more importantly, since this has an FPGA and a processor inside, this is going to be a little bit power hungry. Okay, so you may need to connect a separate power supply to it. Okay, there are some devices which can be directly connected, like Arduino. If you connect just to a USB port, okay, it's done. Okay, the power, it's going to be taken siphoned from your USB port itself. Okay, but MIRIO, since it requires extra power to power all these IOs, you may need to give an external power supply. And this is very great as well. Okay, so if you want to power a quadcopter, you need to power it through battery, and you have this right now here. So in one way, it's good. Okay, but if there is no power, let's say, okay, if power goes out, this is done. Okay, we may not be able to power it off. And it has required IOs, like we said. Okay, it has analog input and output. Okay, and digital input and output, which we will see in short moment how we can access it. This is one side. Okay, we call it port C. Okay, or MSP ports. So these are the inputs and outputs which it contains. Okay, you have like power supply, like 15 volts power supply in order to power an op amp at minimum. Okay, maximum you can power it to use to power some sensors, and also like frequency generators. You can use analog output to do it. Okay, analog input to acquire the same data. And if you want to control some relays or something, okay, so you can make use of this DIO. Okay, maybe you need to power on LED, so you can make use of this DIO to do it. And MXP as well. So if you see, we have this MXP ports as well. Okay, MXP is different from MSP. Okay, this we have furthermore inputs and outputs. Totally, I believe we have like 34 plus 34 plus 20 inputs and outputs. We'll see in short moment what are those other pins as well. Okay, so in short moments. So this is far more than what a normal, a small scale application would require. Of course, these may not be adequate in the sense that the number may be more. Okay, but what here is not sufficient is the power levels, the voltage levels of these pins like AIO0 and AIO0. Okay, may not be sufficient for advanced research and industrial applications. Okay, let's say you want to develop a battery management system. Okay, maybe a battery management system, or maybe to acquire data from high power electronic systems. Okay, so these devices may not be able to do it. Okay, so for that we will go for entirely different type of hardware. Okay, we'll not go for MIRIO. Okay, we'll go for either we can use MIRIO along with an external signal conditioning which is designed by us. Okay, or we can go for a specific device called as compact Rio. Okay, which will come along with modules. Okay, so if you require to acquire 600 voltage or 800 voltage, you'll have a specific voltage module for 800 voltage. Okay, we'll see about that in maybe in the last session. Okay, we will not see how it is or how to program it, because programming a MyRio is as similar as programming compact Rio. Okay, but we'll see about the facts differing from MyRio to compact Rio in maybe in the last session. So what is the architecture behind this? So basically this is how it goes. So Rio typically contains both processor and FPGA. So in order for this Rio to communicate with your computer, okay, your MyRio itself is a computer. Okay, we'll see what is the operating system which is running inside. Okay, in a short moment. And this processor will do typical tasks, okay, which are concerned with operating system. Okay, like maybe computation, maybe multitasking, maybe critical, tasking. So there's kind of types which are necessary for embedded systems. Okay, will be done by your processor, and more importantly, communication, networking. So this type of things will be managed better by processor. But there are some things like signal processing algorithms, custom timing algorithms, clock pulse generation, and those kind of things. Okay, may require use of FPGA, and for that purpose, we'll go for FPGA. And since FPGA is far more deterministic, okay, it quickly interfaces with a real world much better than a processor, because when you say processor, it has an operating system. Operating system is going to add significant bit of delay. So in order to avoid that, if you use an FPGA, okay, you will avoid a lot of layers in between. When you use a processor, processor requires software, and software requires drivers, and these software drivers, all these things are prone to error. Okay, so instead we can directly interact with your hardware. Okay, like ADC, DAC, and digital IO, etc. So FPGAs are going to be much easier and much faster, not easier. Okay, for it to interact with your devices. So for that reason only, FPGA is directly connected to IOs, and processor will interact with FPGA to get the data of this IOs from there. Okay, this is how your Rio is architected inside. But now, this is okay. But next, what do we proceed with? So that's what we are going to see now. So right now I have with me a Rio hardware. So let me just attempt to use a camera. I'm not sure whether this camera will work. Okay, so okay, I see a question. Okay, I'm not really sure about the cost. Okay, because I'm mostly from technical team. Okay, so I'm really not aware of the cost, but I can surely direct you to a person who can talk about that. And the next question is, can we download our design implement using Xilinx ISC into my Rio board? Yes, there is a way called as CLIP node. Okay, where that systems or code you're written using, the VHDL code you're written using, okay, can be interfaced with my Rio. Okay, so you can just get that VHDL code inside your MyRio and make it run. Okay, there is a possibility for that. So yeah, if any questions also, you can surely just drop it in the comment section, and I'll be happy to respond to you. So now coming back to our Rio programming. So as you already know that LabVIEW or NI products are mostly created to make the work job of engineers and scientists all in the world simpler. Okay, in that aspect, from the opening of box, okay, up until the application development, okay, there should be no bottleneck, stopping mechanism should be there. No stopping mechanism should be there. What I'm trying to say here is, okay, there should not be minimum challenges, okay, which should be faced with respect to connecting and configuring. Okay, and LabVIEW and its systems, okay, hardware systems are designed specially to avoid that problems. Okay, it should be easy for anyone to just install the software, get the hardware, connect it, and get it going. Okay, also, I mean, as much as easy it sounds, okay, there are surely some things which we need to follow, right? So right now I've just connected my Rio platform, Rio hardware, okay, to my computer. Okay, when I did that, this window opened. Okay, I think you are able to see my screen, I guess. Yeah. So once you connect it, okay, this window is going to pop up. And what you can do here is you can see that it says letting start a wizard, where we need to go directly to LabVIEW and all other things which are here. Okay, but what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to see what exactly this MyRio hardware is. Okay, so I've connected it via USB. Okay, it is, even though it's a USB, okay, it's a Ethernet device, meaning the USB is connected to Ethernet inside internally, and it's like communicating to another computer essentially. Okay, because your MyRio has a processor, okay, which makes it an standalone computer. Okay, and more importantly, it has a processor with an operating system. Okay, so you're communicating to another computer using a network. It also has a serial number. Okay, now differentiate between different MyRios. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start. I'm going to open a software called as NIMax, which helps me know more bit about my MyRio, which is connected here, before I do anything. And you might wonder what type of software is this NIMax. So we all know the development environment for us is NI LabVIEW. That's where we write our code, we develop our application, we deploy our application to our clients. But before we start to develop the application at all, the first thing what we do is we do a step called as connecting and configuring. Connecting is basically nothing but opening your device box from, taking your box from the, taking your device from the box and starting to work with it for the first time. The configuration. Okay, in order to make this configuration smoother, NI is providing us one software called as NIMax, okay, which is specifically used for this configuration purpose only. So it essentially helps me organize the hardware connectivity, NI hardware connectivity essentially, with my development environment. So it shows, my system settings and my device settings and whether any external device is connected to my computer or not. Okay, so it says the system name, system model, these operations are told. And under my system, what are the devices that are externally connected? Okay, that will also be shown. So I can click on this bottom the stuff. Okay, it's going to show me what is connected to my device. And under this, it's showing that a USB device is connected. Again, it says MyRio. And there's also something on remote systems, okay, which essentially tells me what is the other computer which is connected to my computer, like network drive. And it shows MyRio under it. Okay, basically the named version of my MyRio. I can rename my MyRio to whatever I want. Okay, maybe you are running a laboratory, okay, which has five MyRios running 24/7, and each of them are doing its own experiments or testing. Okay, maybe one is doing a semiconductor test. Okay, the other one is doing, let's say, a mechanical vibration test. So it happens 24/7, let's say. Okay, or condition monitoring. So you may need to be able to differentiate different types of MyRio by name, right? So that's what happens here. Okay, so if you click on this remote system MyRio, it obviously takes some time, and it shows settings with respect to that. So like I can just like my system, okay, I can see under MyRio what are the properties of my system. Okay, in my system I have specifications of my system display, that is my laptop's display. Similarly, I want to see the specifications of my Rio, and you can see various information like what is the IP address, what is the DNS name, what was the vendor, model, and what is the firmware version installed inside the Rio, and more importantly, the operating system. As I said, this is an embedded system with the operating system inside, and it's going to use version of NI real-time Linux. This is basically an RTOS, okay, developed by NI along with Linux kernel. Okay, so that's what makes it a real-time embedded system. Okay, so I mean everyone knows that why people go for real-time. Okay, not to have a strict time, timing, operation which needs to happen. Okay, determinism, all those things comes into play. So that's the reason why this device hardware is also coming with a real-time operating system. Okay, if your goal is to be deterministic, okay, the meaning of being deterministic and a responsive is when we say we need to execute an operation within a stipulated time, okay, it needs to happen within the time frame. So no more, no less, okay, within the stipulated time. So using an operating system, we can schedule or we can prioritize this operation from happening within the stipulated time. That is possible by using this real-time operating system. And the version of real-time operating system which we use for MyRio is NI real-time NX, and most of the compact Rio is also using the same thing, which means when you want to write a program for MyRio, you can simply do copy paste for compact Rio as well. Okay, that easy. Okay, previously, NI used to use other versions of Rio like VxWorks, the commonly used embedded system real-time operating system. Okay, VxWorks, Fairlabs, okay, those were used, but now since security has become a concern, they switched to NI campaigns. And it's also telling the status, whether it's running or whether software failure has occurred. Okay, this type of insights from the hardware can be observed using this hardware. And more importantly, system resources also can be seen here. Okay, like how much physical memory is available inside, how much free memory is available inside, okay, whatnot. So if you see there's only minimum 386 MB. Let's say you want to do data logging for 1 second every day. I mean 1 second for the full day. Okay, so 86,400 seconds are there. Okay, maybe you're going to acquire like 10 to 20 data points. Okay, maybe it goes more than the stipulated MB. Okay, if you need more storage, that's where your USB comes into picture. Okay, you can connect it to USB connector like 16 GB pen drive or 30 GB pen drive, and you can expand it. Or you can even connect. I believe you can connect it with a hard disk as well. Okay, so whatever helps our case. And there are other things like settings, network settings. Okay, so as we spoke, predominantly if you connect it by USB, it's going to be connected by Ethernet. You also have an option of wireless because this version of Myrio has a Wi-Fi. Okay, you can either enable or disable the Wi-Fi. You can set time to your Myrio. And more importantly, your LabVIEW based systems are heavily documented. You most of the time we don't really need to have internet for LabVIEW based systems because most of them are heavily documented in the help itself. Right? So whatever help you need, it's available just a click away. So once you connect it, okay, you are going to come over here and you can also see what are the softwares installed inside the Rio. Okay, because it has an operating system, it's programmable by using LabVIEW. The program of whatever program LabVIEW program you write in your computer is going to run in the lab, inside your embedded system. Which means it needs to have the LabVIEW installed in it. And if you want to see what are the softwares that are installed, okay, you need to just check what are the device interfaces available. So for computer device interfaces, what is connected to the USB port and stuff. Okay, for Myrio on the other hand, it will show what are the connectors which are available. Okay, typically it will show the serial port as device interface. Yeah, if you see, we have this serial port connectors available. So if I click on that, it will show me how I can configure the port settings of these serial port. And the FPGA is also available here. Right? And also you can see what is software installed inside. So it has very small number of software available. Okay, it has LabVIEW installed inside. Toolkit, Myrio's toolkit. The toolkit is installed inside. Control simulation design toolkit is installed. And other important aspects like IMAC. IMAC basically means if you want to do image acquisition using LabVIEW, okay, if you're connected to a appropriate camera, okay, it should be able to do that. So, but even though whatever is installed inside the hardware, if you want to develop a program for that, you need to have equivalent software installed in your device as well. Device as in your laptop needs to be installed in order to develop it. Okay. So this level of connection configuration is what happens inside your Rio. Okay, but you can always install if you want to do a custom installation. Okay, if you want to install much more than what is available here, all you need to do is just need to click on the rightly on software, and what you do is you get the software installation dialog box. Okay, it says when you update software and LabVIEW auto-target while the Windows firewall is enabled. Okay, the dialog box may appear shown NMAX communicate over network, etc. Okay, most of the time when you work with the external embedded system associated with NI hardwares, okay, your firewall may block it. And I'm not meaning to say that only NI based system it happens like this. Okay, I have worked with other instrumentation, network based instrumentation hardwares which have been blocked by the firewall. Okay, due to what reason we don't know. Okay, but firewall typically blocks unknown sources. So once we are disabling, okay, if you install it, whatever needs to be installed will be installed without any problems. So I click OK, and what's asking me is asking me to log into my Rio. Okay, basically Rio will be typically blocked. Okay, not everyone can log in and configure things. Okay, only when you have the software password you will be able to manipulate it. Right now this doesn't have any password. Okay, but it's best if you set something once you get the access to your Rio. And you can see that it's going to ask me to install. Okay, so by default it will just install some important components like the real-time operating system, the support and other remote configuration, because it is intended to be used as an IoT device. Okay, it needs to have some kind of remote support. Okay, and the drivers, um, SSL support, in the sense it's going to be secure socket layer can be implemented. Okay, so WebDAV is a way of communicating files. Okay, if you, let's say if you're going to do data logging, you need to transfer the data logging data file back to your computer. So you need to have an appropriate server for that. And apart from that, you have other tools which are available as available add-ons, which means install. If you want to do something using that, yes, you can do it. What we may need to install later is we may need to install something called as HTTPS support. Yeah, HTTP client support as well, because when we want to transfer data from your MyRio to your computer, okay, we may need to have this available with us. Okay, but I'm not going to waste time in installation. Okay, it will not do justice. Okay, so, and let's say if you want to send mail from MyRio via let's say in the form of alarm. Okay, you want to send mail. Okay, there's the SMTP client is also available, which helps you to send mail once your MyRio is connected to internet. Okay, you can just send command to it. And apart from that, whatever can be done using your computer, mostly can be done using your Rio as well. The only the stuff here, the problem is your computer has a display and your MyRio does not have a display. The advantage of MyRio over here is, let's say you want to do this in a remote environment. Okay, maybe you need to control a boiler of a power plant. Okay, so it's not really a good idea to make use of a functioning computer nearby this very heavy heat induced generating stuff. So instead, if you are going to use if you're going to use an embedded system, okay, which has the ruggedness, okay, to handle this, okay, it will be much better. Fine. So right now I'm going to install that. One more way of installing, okay, is once you connect your MyRio, okay, it will open this window. Okay, and typically a new MyRio will not have any operating system or it will be blank. So in that case, you can just go to launch the install wizard. And in the install wizard, we can select, if you have my 5 MyRios, this will list all the 5 MyRios. Okay, what you do is you only select the appropriate MyRio. and the installation possibly cannot be done. Fine. Okay, now that is okay. Okay, so if you cannot done installation, if you cannot do installation using that way, okay, you can possibly go to NI Max and install it. Not a problem. Okay, but now let's say I want to start accessing the memory. Okay, in that case, right now it's safe for us to just open LabVIEW software and start working with it. I have to program a Mario. Okay, all you have to do is just close existing files, and you have something called as Mario project. Okay, which helps me access my Mario in an easy format. And if you see, the first and foremost important thing what you do is, typically when you program using LabVIEW, we always go for something called as VA. Okay, VA will be used to create one virtual instrument. But when you're working with a program which is going to run in multiple computers, when I say multiple computers, your laptop could be one computer, the other computer could be a LabVIEW based embedded system. Okay, meaning data could transfer from your computer to the embedded system or embedded system to your computer. Okay, we normally make use of something called as project. Okay, so LabVIEW projects will be used when you're going to work inter-target programming. Okay, you can name your subproject to whatever makes total sense. So let's say I'm going to just Mario test, and I would like to save it in my desktop. I mean, already my desktop is littered with a lot of things. But anyway, let me just get it saved in my desktop itself. I will say I'll create and I'll just save it here. So I can name the project as what I require, and I can save that project in the location which I prefer. And more importantly, I can set the target on how that particular target is connected. Okay, maybe you have connected this Mario by using the USB. So you can deploy the application, whatever code you're written using inside your Mario by connecting to USB. Number one, first important way, and this is the first way we do it. Okay, but as time progresses and you want your system to be truly remote, you want it to be an IoT. Okay, in that case, what we'll do is we will deploy it via Wi-Fi. Okay, but in order for it to be Wi-Fi, it needs to be connected. Either I need to connect to the Mario's Wi-Fi, or Mario should be connected to a common router. That router which is connected to my computer. I mean, my computer is connected to which router, whatever router is common LAN should be there. Okay, so that only it will make interact with it. So basically, in public network, it needs to be connected, or it needs to be connected directly to the source, that is your laptop. Let's say for some reason you don't even have Mario. Okay, so Mario or Compaq or anything. Okay, you don't have access to an actual hardware. Okay, but most of the time, the application, whatever you develop, the hardware will not be even with us. It will not be in our hands. But still, we need to be able to program it from anywhere, anytime, any place. Okay, in that case, there should be a way for us to simulate at least the characteristics of this hardware in order for us to design the workflow. And not do that. Instead of relying on existing hardwares, we can go for an option called as generic target. I'll just say what type of view it is, and I'll start programming right away. Okay, once the code is completed, then I will select that hardware from some place. Okay, so which will assign the code whatever written to that particular hardware. Right now, I connected my radio hardware via the USB, so I'll just set the USB, and by default, it's assigned the USB value and IP address. More importantly, below you can see what are the inputs and outputs that are available, which will be useful for you. So number one is it has 12 analog inputs and outputs. 12. I believe Arduino UNO has like 5. I mean, of course, people will say Arduino Mega has 16. Okay, but those 16 are not really, high resolution. It is 8-bit. Okay, MyRadio comes around 12-bit resolution. Okay, it can go up to plus or minus 10 volts, meaning you can measure both positive and negative voltage. But most of the time, your Arduino will come with 0 to 5 volts only, meaning it cannot measure negative voltages. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible at all. Okay, if you want to implement it, either you need to go for an extra circuitry, okay, which is going to convert this whatever positive and negative voltage you're generating into the 0 to 5 volt scale. Of course, if you are good with instrumentation, you can design it on your own. Or you can make use of this SPI, I2C, UART, and you can select an appropriate ADC. Okay, like maybe you can select an SPI based ADC or DAC, and Arduino also has SPI, so you can do that as well. But the key question here is how much time are you willing to spend for something that is already invented? You don't want to reinvent the wheel again and again. Of course, if it's a hobbyist program, yes, you have enough time to spare. Okay, you can build everything from scratch. Okay, but most of the time, research time is at stake. Deadlines are suggested, right? So in that case, you need to be able to design with already existing infrastructure. So if your objective is to acquire data from sensor, log the data, maybe do it in remote fashion, and schedule that acquisition like every 1 second or every half an hour or 1 hour, and this needs to happen through human intervention. You need to make use of an embedded system which has both ruggedness, enough input and outputs, and whatnot. So this has 12 analog inputs capable of acquiring data from 12 different sensors. This also has the capability to generate some waveforms, 8 in fact, 40 DIOs, okay, more than which is required. Okay, maybe you need to do an automation system. Okay, you need to control relays, okay, switch on, switch off appliances. You can do it. Or maybe you need to design a control panel, okay, which has like you maybe need to design a power plant control panel. So you need to do this in a sequential order. So you can use that as a switch. Okay, you can use an LED to tell what is the status, whatever it is. In accelerometer, if you're going to do mission condition monitoring, instead of investing in a special extra accelerometer, you already have an accelerometer. And let's say if you're from a EEE background, okay, you want to implement, let's say, some circuit, okay, so or you want to control a motor, different motors for robotics, okay, different speeds. You can use a PWM generator, 8 in fact. Let's say you want to measure the speed at which motor is rotating, encoder, and you want to implement, you want to interface with embedded you know, embedded based sensors, okay, which runs through protocols. Okay, so we have SPS, I2C, UART, two of each, highly sufficient, and interrupts can also be generated. So this hardware has all these capabilities, and more importantly, you don't have to go low level in programming all these things, because what you really need to do is just drag and drop a clock which will directly give you voltage instead of giving you ABC data like 00101 or binary data, which you need to convert it back into numbers. You don't need to do all that. And PWM, instead of saying the on time and off time, you just can specify the frequency value and the duty cycle value. It's going to generate the PWM for you. Okay, that's how easy it makes it. Right. So once this is done, we just give finish, and lab is going to create a project which helps you program and access your memory. Yeah, so this is created. So if you see under project, I have my computer as well, which I can run my lab view under my computer, and I also have this plus button available under which I have a MyRio under have which I have a VI, a lab view program. So whatever code I written under Rio, okay, will be running in Rio. Whatever program I write under my computer will run under the computer. And my Rio also is installed with LabVIEW. Okay, but the development will happen on my computer, and once I have compiled, I click on the run button, it will get compiled into something MyRio in my LabVIEW can LabVIEW in my MyRio can run. Okay, it will be compiled to that format and it will be sent there, and that code will be executed in Rio. So here, as a part of template, they are giving an example which we will try to run, and from the template we can develop whatever is suitable for us. Okay, and here they have this project template. Okay, we're just going to take the data from your accelerometer, okay, which we can feel free to use. Accelerometer data is grabbed and it is displayed in this LabVIEW's chart. Okay, LabVIEW has capabilities of plotting this data, okay, in a graphical format. So x-axis, this is a triple axis accelerometer. Okay, so I can get x-axis, y-axis, z-axis. So I can just run this program, and you can see normally when I run the LabVIEW program, this window will not open. Okay, so this window will not open. Okay, because right now whatever code you have written in your computer gets compiled to something which my Rio can understand. The compilation status is only we are seeing here. Okay, and see you can also see that since it's an embedded system with finite memory, okay, it gets compiled, and we'll be able to see how much memory your program is consuming as well. So I will close. And even though it's an embedded system, the data is getting executed in my computer, in my Rio. I'm able to see the data in my computer. But this is the data of my Rio. Okay, right now it's just flat. I've placed it in a flat fashion. So you can see that x-axis and y-axis is just 0. Okay, it doesn't face any acceleration due to gravity. But since I am, having it perpendicular to z-axis, okay, you can see that it's 1. Okay, 1 is 1g. Now I can change its orientation. I don't even need to change the orientation. I just need to just strike at it once, and you can see that vibration is created, and I can observe that vibration data in my screen. If I change the orientation as though it's going to perpendicularly be done with x-axis. You can see now the x-axis has become 1 and other 2 has become 0. I can make it to the other direction. Instead of 1, okay, I can see that acceleration due to gravity is -1. Which means with respect to the acceleration, the accelerometer inside, this reference is in different direction. And this is going to be the z-axis. And y-axis. And now if I do this, if you want to do this using a non-LabVIEW based system, I need to write a code to acquire voltage data from the accelerometer, number 1. Number 2, I need to convert it to acceleration due to gravity. Conversion factor should be defined. Okay, and not only that, that data should be transferred back to my computer. Okay, meaning I need to do a TCP/IP programming and bring it to my computer, and in my computer another code will be running parallelly. Okay, and that data should be displayed in this GUI format. Maybe I need to use a .NET to write it. So that again takes a lot of time. But since it's LabVIEW, we will not initiate the TCP/IP and all those things. Okay, this is going to happen in backend for us. Okay, the only thing in your block diagram will be you're going to command LabVIEW to fetch the data of accelerometer. Okay, there's a block for that, and you're going to just bundle all these 3 data together and display it in your chart. And we don't want it to happen very fast, so we're going to use a delay. And we are going to do this continuously. Just like for loop, we have another loop called as while loop. I hope that was told to you. Okay, this is a while loop, meaning until I stop it, this program is going to continuously acquire data from accelerometer. And the rate at which it's going to acquire is going to be defined by this wait function. Acquire, wait, acquire, wait, acquire, wait. So once that is done, you have the reset. Since lab is graphical programming language, okay, so data flow programming, the programming flow will be defined by the wires. Okay, so you enter inside, you execute whatever is inside, again you come back, okay, again this will come back, again this will come back, again this will come back, it will keep on going loop until this condition is satisfied. Right? So this is how we program, and the program here we written is also not C, C++, embedded C, .NET, nothing is there. Although there is a support for that as well. Okay, if you are interested, yes, you can go for it. Okay, but most of the time, if you want to access much more important regions of the Myrio specifications, okay, it's better if you go for lab, because lab is fully supported. So here, if you see, there is a block called as accelerometer, which makes our job much simpler. Okay, but there is a we are going to program this using Myrio. So if you see, there is something called as Myrio palette, which will contain all the required information which needs to be acquired as a block. Just drag and drop, that's it. Okay, we don't have to deal with it in ADC level, DAC level, voltage level, nothing. Okay, so it's going to fetch directly from the ADC, fetch data, and just generate to give you the voltage level. Of course, you still need to do calibration. Okay, you need to convert that voltage level to the sensor data. Okay, we'll see one example based on that. Anyway, we'll do that. Then you have other important reasons. Everything is available as a block. Okay, and utilizing the block, you can do whatever is suited for your needs. Okay. So fine. If you have any questions until now, please let me know. Okay, so I think no one has any questions.
I have two questions which I have typed in chat box.
I'm sorry, sir.
I have one question which I have typed in chat box.
Yeah, I answered it, sir. The first question I answered as since I'm from technical team, I have no idea on the cost. Okay, number one. Number two is there is a way how we can implement the already existing code of your VHDL or Verilog into the Myrio board. Okay, there is a Xilinx CLIP node is available. Okay, so with which we can import your FPGA code inside your Xilinx code. Okay, so that will take care of it. Okay, but for that we need to first instantiate FPGA development. Okay, yeah, right now the Myrio is configured for real-time programming, which means it will execute real-time only. Okay, I believe tomorrow or day after tomorrow maybe you'll be having sessions specifically related to FPGA. Okay, so probably they will be able to help you out.
So, do we have the course related to this part? Are you demonstrating any Xilinx code, okay, or VHDL or Verilog code downloaded on Myrio board?
No, our specialization is only on LabVIEW based tools, sir. So we don't specialize on VHDL and Verilog. But whatever FPGA based requirement we have, okay, that if that is possible by using LabVIEW, we will be able to do it.
So your course deals with this part or no?
There is a way to do this using Myrio. There is a possibility is available.
Possibility might be there, but do you have this content in your course? Whatever course is going
I'm
on,
not sure who's
are you
going
dealing with
to.
this part of the?
Yeah, this
VHDL
part
or
of this,
Verilog
I'm not
coding
sure it
on
will be
FPGA?
covering or not.
You don't have this part in your course content.
No, I mean this Verilog code, we may not be able to cover it.
Okay.
Okay, any experiments using DAC? Right now we are just learning how we can use this hardware. We'll see how we can acquire and generate data, man. Sorry, sir. Okay, and we'll be able to do it.
Okay, any other queries?
Right, in that case, we'll. I mean, is it time for break, sir, or
Yes,
is it
sir.
supposed
Yes.
to? Okay.
Yes. We can take a break of 30 minutes. 12 o'clock, we'll start the next session.
Okay, sure.
12 to 1:30. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sure, sir. We'll continue after the break as well. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Vishwesh, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think you can
Stop the recording, sir.
stop the recording. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.